If you just watch a video telling you to stop being nice, to set firm boundaries, to refuse being used anymore, and part of you felt strong, but another part felt quietly unsettled, this video is for you, because here's what often happens next. People stop crossing your lines. You say no more often. You explain less. You finally get space. And yet, something feels off. Things are quieter, colder, almost like something meaningful disappeared with the noise. You start asking questions you don't say out loud. Am I becoming too hard? Am I pushing everyone away? Am I protecting myself or slowly isolating myself? Here's the truth. That feeling doesn't mean you set boundaries wrong. It means you've entered a phase most people never talk about, the phase after you stop being used. And if you don't understand this phase, you either go back to being too nice or you turn into someone cold and bitter. Here's the frame most people miss. Boundaries are not a personality. They're not an identity. They're a tool. Their only job is to stop the bleeding. And if you've been used for a long time, that alone feels like freedom. You finally breathe. You finally feel control over your time, your energy, your attention. But control is not direction. If you stop at boundaries, your life slowly becomes defensive. You're safe, but you're not moving forward. Protected, but not connected. This is where many people get stuck. They confuse not being used with knowing how to live. But those are two very different skills. Boundaries decide who does not get access to you. They don't automatically tell you who should. And without that second part, you don't build a life. You build a perimeter, clean, orderly, quiet, but empty. So the real question isn't, how do I make my boundaries stronger? The real question is this: what comes after you stop being used? Once the bleeding stops, something unexpected shows up. Not relief, not confidence, but a quiet set of feelings most people aren't prepared for. The first one is emptiness, not because something went wrong, but because something ended. For a long time, your value came from being needed, from fixing problems, from responding quickly, from always being available. When you set boundaries, that noise disappears. No constant requests, no emergencies, no guilt-driven obligations. And suddenly, you're left with time, but no clear sense of what it's for. That emptiness isn't failure. It's unused space. The second feeling is coldness. You're calmer, more distant, less reactive. People notice. You don't laugh as easily. You don't soften your words. You don't explain yourself as much. At first, this feels like strength. But then another question appears. Am I becoming someone I don't like? Or am I just no longer performing warmth for free? Here's what's actually happening. Coldness often shows up when you remove emotional labor. Before you learn where to place warmth intentionally, you stop giving energy everywhere, but you haven't chosen where it belongs yet. The third feeling is moral doubt. This one is quieter, but heavier. Am I still a good person? Am I selfish now? Am I protecting myself? Or punishing people for what they did before, especially if you were raised to be agreeable, helpful, or nice? Boundaries can feel like betrayal, not betrayal of others, but betrayal of your old identity. You're no longer defined by usefulness, and that can feel deeply unsettling. So, if you felt emptiness, coldness, or moral doubt, nothing is broken. You're not failing. You're transitioning. And this is the point where things either integrate or start to harden. This is the point where a lot of people go wrong, because boundaries don't stay healthy automatically. If you're not paying attention, they can slowly turn into something else. Boundaries come from self-respect. Bitterness comes from self-protection that has hardened. On the surface, they look almost identical. You're less available. You explain less. You keep more distance. But the intention underneath is completely different. When you set a boundary, you're saying, "This doesn't work for me." When bitterness takes over, you're saying, "People can't be trusted." One is selective. The other is defensive. Here's how you can tell the difference in real life. Boundaries are calm. You don't need to punish anyone. You don't need to teach a lesson. You don't need silence to speak for you. Bitterness is tense. Silence becomes a weapon. Distance becomes a message. Withholding becomes control. This is where the moral confusion starts. A lot of people tell themselves, I'm just protecting my peace. But peace doesn't require resentment, and protection doesn't require contempt. If your boundaries are fueled by anger, they won't stay boundaries for long. They tighten, they narrow, they stop filtering behavior, and start rejecting people. And this is the dangerous part. Bitterness feels powerful at first. It gives you a sense of control, a sense of superiority, a sense of safety, but it also rewires how you see others. You stop asking, "Is this person safe?" and start assuming they're probably a threat. Over time, bitterness doesn't just keep harmful people out. It blocks healthy ones from getting in. Boundaries preserve your standards. Bitterness collapses them. Boundaries help you choose carefully. Bitterness helps you choose no one. And that's how people end up isolated, telling themselves they're just stronger now, when in reality, they've stopped trusting entirely. So if the goal wasn't to be harder, and it wasn't to go back to being nice, then what do you build after you stop being used? You don't build walls, you build standards. Because boundaries tell people where you end, standards tell you what you stand for. Standards answer questions like, what kind of behavior do I respect? What drains my energy? What am I willing to invest in? With consistency and intention, when you don't have standards, every interaction feels negotiable. When you do, you don't need to explain your boundaries. Your choices explain them for you. The second thing you build is reciprocal connection. Not people who need you, people who meet you halfway. Connection isn't about intensity. It's about balance. Effort matched with effort. Care matched with care. That's how connection stops feeling like labor and starts feeling like belonging. The third thing you build is selective warmth. Not shutting down entirely, not opening up to anyone, but choosing where your warmth goes on purpose, not by default. Warmth without standards gets exploited. Standards without warmth turn cold. Selective warmth is what keeps you human, without making you available to everyone. Here's the real difference. If all you ever build are boundaries, you'll survive. If you build standards, reciprocal connections, and selective warmth, you'll actually live. And that's what makes the difference between existing in defense and thriving in life. This is what integration actually looks like. You're firm on the outside, clear, boundaried, not easily pulled or pressured, but on the inside, you're still warm. You don't harden your heart to protect your life. You strengthen your structure so your heart doesn't have to wear armor all the time. That's the difference. Integrated strength isn't loud. You don't explain yourself. You don't threaten distance. You don't perform dominance. Your clarity does the work for you. You can say no without resentment. You can be kind without being available. You can walk away without contempt. This is the balance most people never reach. They think strength means being cold, or softness means being weak. Integration is neither. It's being strong enough to choose, and soft enough to connect. You're no longer guarding yourself constantly. You trust your standards. You trust your discernment. And because of that, you don't need to protect yourself from everyone. You simply live with clarity, with selectivity, and without losing your humanity. If you're still here at the end of this video, it means you've already done the hardest part. You stopped letting yourself be used. You chose self-respect. That matters more than most people realize. The work now isn't about becoming tougher. It's about becoming clearer. Clear about who you let into your life. Clear about what you give. Clear about what you no longer negotiate. In the next video, I'll talk about how to recognize safe people after you've cut the wrong ones off, without reopening old patterns or losing the progress you've made. If that's where you are right now, I'll see you there.